All right, you too can be like those viewers sent through your voice notes to us. Alternatively, your messages of what you will look forward to watching out at Paris Olympics 2024. And yes, SABC will be showing you the Olympics. And of course, that schedule will be released closer to the commencement of the tournament, which gets underway on the 26th of July. And also to remind you, after 8 this morning, we will be going out to Nuclear Primary School, supporting their youngsters with some equipment and really just saying to them, you are the generation that we look forward to seeing doing all the best for South Africa in sport. But let's move to this now. Now, the draw for the preliminary rounds of the Africa Cup of Nations took place yesterday, with the top 2 teams in each qualification group advancing to the 2014 tournament. The preliminaries will be played between September as well as November this year, meaning that the teams who are in form for those 3 months will have the best chance of reaching Morocco 2025. Now, let's talk now about the Euros, which are currently underway out in Germany. We'll also touch on the draw from Afcon coming through. I am joined in studio by former professional footballer Mark Haskins. Mark, I won't say all the teams that you played for because it may take us a while. I'm joking.
We don't have time. We don't have time.
But Mark, let's first, before we start talking about Euros 2024 and what we've seen so far, many saying the tournament not quite as exciting as we would have expected. I want to touch on that Afcon draw, and we look at the group that South Africa is in: Sudan, Congo and Uganda. What do you make of that group?
Well, South Africa, I think, would be pleased by the draw. It's no disrespect to anyone, but I think the trajectory we've been taking, and we've been in an upward spiral, and so definitely I think, we feel like we're one of the premier teams on the continent now. When we look at the draw, we definitely ahead of a lot of the teams. I mean, I was looking at the rankings. Uganda ranked 94, Congo 113, and South Sudan 167, sorry. And so and South Africa's ranked 59th in the world. So, we've really been doing well of late. And if we keep growing the way we do, I think this is a group that we can navigate. It's never easy. I've always said the divide on the African continent is like nowhere else. I think it's harder to qualify for a continental competition on the African continent. It's much harder than Europe, CONCACAF, whatever you want to call it. So CAF is definitely the narrow, the divide between the different teams is so narrow. So it's going to be tough, but this is a group we should get through, especially because top 2 go through to Afcon. So we should be there.
We should be there. Another group I want to touch on quickly before we talk about Euros and hopefully a bit of Copa: Egypt. Do they have a nice run-up in this one? Cape Verde, Mauritania, as well as Botswana?
Not at all. Not at all. I think I chose 2 groups. When I looked at all, it's obviously there's 12 groups, and that's why best top 2 will qualify, making 24 teams. The 2 groups of death, if I can call it that, would be Group C that Egypt is in, and for me, Group J as well. So Group C, I mean, if you look at Cape Verde showing at the Afcon,
and
Mauritania showing at the Afcon, and Botswana is also steadily rising and really performing well. We see them growing even in the CAF Champions League on club football. And so, football is on the rise on the continent as a whole. And so Group C probably the toughest group to navigate, and so Egypt's going to have a tough time. And then Group J, Cameroon, Namibia, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. It's not that one is also, Cameroon will be favorites in that one, but those are some tough matches to get through as well. We saw Namibia, the surprise they pulled at the Afcon as well, and so they're a team to beat. And then Zimbabwe, on their day, they can compete with the best. And so
Group and that J, youngster.
So Group J is going to be a tough one as well.
All right, Mark, let's talk about Euro 2024. Marquee quarterfinal clash, Spain taking on Germany. I want to touch on that one because we look at what we've seen so far at the Euros this year, and I think one would say from the teams we've seen, Spain has probably been one of the most solid ones, but one would then look at the group that they've been in. What do you make of this quarterfinal clash?
It's, this is kind of the clash that people wanted to see later in the tournament. We were hoping we'd see a final, Germany, maybe a Germany-Spain semi-final, final, for them to meet, and for one of these teams to go out to the quarterfinal stage is going to be tough. Obviously, Germany as the host nation, a lot riding on this game. They've really disappointed in terms of their national team in recent major tournaments, whether it's Euros or the World Cup specifically. And so, their team has underperformed very much in recent years. You've never really seen German coaches getting fired. But that's happened recently. And so We certainly need Germany to perform and do well. But Spain, yes, has been the standout team in the tournament. And that young man, those two young men that we're seeing right now, Yamal as well as Musiala, I think that's the clash everyone wants to see. A 16-year-old, and I think Musiala, if I'm not mistaken, is 21 years old. And those are the marquee players for their respective teams. It's absolutely astounding. And yes, Yamal, he's just so exciting to watch. He can't play. I don't know if you've heard, in Germany, child laws don't allow him to play past 11 or something along those lines. So it's very interesting.
So the game has to be very nice and early.
And so, yeah, I think this is definitely the matchup we're looking forward to. But it's difficult to call, but based on form and coming into this game, you have to give Spain the edge. Germany have played well, but haven't been altogether convincing. So I definitely think Spain is the team to beat right now, and probably the team that will advance from this game.
I also want to touch on Switzerland, because they're the team that managed to knock out the defending champions in Italy. And in the quarters, they take on England. For the longest time, it's been coming home for this English team. And we saw them leave it quite late in their round of 16 clash. What do you make of this one?
Again, I never understand why England are ever among favourites for any tournament.
It's the quality they have in the team.
It's not about... the reality is, when we look at the England team, a lot of their players are not as good as people make them out to be. I say this with the utmost respect. Even a Jude Bellingham, too much pressure has been put on him. He's not like when he went to Madrid and they gave him the number 5 jersey, that automatically draws comparisons with Zinedine Zidane. And there's absolutely no comparison. Jude Bellingham is a good player in his own right, but when we look at the quality in that England team overall, it's not as good as people make it out to be. It's just because those are the faces, the names and faces we're used to seeing on a consistent basis. They're constantly in the media, and so we expect so much of them. But I've never, ever rated England as one of the best teams globally. When you look at this Switzerland game now, I don't think England are the favourites coming into this game. I think Switzerland are actually the favourites. And I think England could easily be going home from this quarterfinal clash, given how they've performed. When you look at even their defense, it's very average when you in terms of the performance. And this is a defense that can easily be unlocked. And so with Switzerland and the way they've performed, Switzerland is a very consummate, consistent team. And that's all it's going to take to beat a team like England. And so I'm not a big fan of the English team, and I don't ever understand why they're among the favourites.
And he says that respectfully. Mark, we have run out of time. We've got about 45 seconds left. I want to quickly touch on Copa America, what you've made of what you've seen so far in the tournament. We know the likes of legends such as Ronaldinho saying, I'm not even watching the Brazilian team play because they're just not up to standard. What do you make of
there's
Copa?
A lot of controversy around Copa America, purely because people feel that Argentina has been given an easy ride all the way to the final. And I have to agree, because I don't understand why Brazil and Colombia played in the same group, and if they win their respective quarterfinals, they'll then meet in the semi-final. And if you're in the same group, you should only ever meet again in the final
stage.
And that's not the case at Copa America, whereas Messi's team, they just won this morning against Ecuador. Messi missed a penalty in the shootout, so a lot of controversy around that.
Ronaldo can relax.
Ronaldo, yeah. So again, they'll play the winner between Venezuela and Canada. Whereas, the other end of the draw is a lot tougher. And so a lot of controversy around that. But again, the Brazil team hasn't delivered in the early phase, but they now have the opportunity to rise as the tournament progresses. I always prefer teams start slow and pick up as the tournament progresses. Unfortunately, Vinny Jr. picked up a yellow, and so I think he's suspended for their quarterfinal clash. But still, I think it's going to be interesting going into the latter part of the tournament.
Mark Haskins, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just unpacking in terms of that Afcon draw that took place for Afcon 2025, looking at the Euros and wrapping up on the Copa America. What a time to be alive if you're a sport fan.